My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 29 years old, and 2 weeks before my wedding, my father looked my fiancée in the eye and said, "She's a liar, always has been." My mother leaned forward, voice low and sharp. She had a baby at 18 and tried to trap a man with it. Then she gave the child away like it meant nothing. I sat there, quiet, still. I didn't defend myself. I didn't cry, because what they didn't know was that the man they were trying to turn against me had already found her, and they had no idea she was about to walk into our rehearsal dinner. I'm Elena, and this is the story of how my parents tried to erase my life and how the daughter they forced me to give up came back and rewrote it. 8 years earlier, I was 18 and terrified. I got pregnant during my first year of college. I told my mother first, thinking she would help me figure it out. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She said, "You're going to fix this." When I refused an abortion, they took control. They pulled me out of school, cut me off from everyone, especially Ryan, the boy I loved. They sent messages from my phone, ended things in my name, told him I didn't want contact. By the time I realized how far they'd go, I was already isolated, dependent, trapped. I gave birth in a quiet hospital room in August. A baby girl, dark curls, tiny fingers. I was allowed to hold her for maybe a minute, just enough to memorize her face. Then she was gone. They told me it was a closed adoption, no contact, no future connection. They said I'd thank them one day. I didn't. For 8 years, I carried that loss like something stitched into my chest. I built a life around it, nursing school, a job in pediatric care, therapy, and every year on her birthday, I disappeared. I'd sit in my car outside the hospital and wonder what she looked like, if she was happy, if she ever thought about me. Then, 8 years later, I saw Ryan again. It was at the hospital. He was there for a project, an architect working on a new pediatric wing. We locked eyes across a hallway, and everything we lost came rushing back. We talked for hours that day. I told him the truth about my parents, about the pregnancy, about the adoption. He didn't pull away. He stayed, and slowly, carefully, we found our way back to each other. A year later, he proposed on a rooftop in the cold, with a ring that had been in his family for generations. I said yes before he even finished asking. For the first time in years, my life felt like it was finally mine. Until my parents got involved again. They criticized everything about the wedding. The flowers, the venue, the guest list. It wasn't about the wedding. It was about control. Then, about a year before the wedding, Ryan asked me something that changed everything. Is there any chance the baby was mine? I had always assumed otherwise. The timeline was messy. I had convinced myself it wasn't possible. But when I really thought about it, I didn't know. So he did something I didn't expect. He took a DNA test. At first, nothing came of it. Then, months later, a match appeared. A close family match. A child. 8 years old. Same state. Same timeline. Her name was Lily. Ryan didn't tell me right away. He needed to be sure. So he hired a professional to verify everything properly. When he finally showed me the results, the photo I broke. She had my eyes. His smile. Our daughter. Alive, safe, loved. We reached out carefully, through legal channels, not to disrupt her life, just to ask if contact was possible. Her adoptive parents, kind, thoughtful people, responded with something I never expected. They said they had always wanted her to know where she came from. They said they had tried to contact me years ago, but were told I didn't want anything to do with her. My parents had blocked them, lied to them, erased me from my own child's life. We met Lily on a quiet afternoon. She was curious, brave, a little cautious. She showed us a scrapbook she'd made of her life. Then she looked at me and asked, "Did you want to keep me?" I told her the truth. Yes, I wanted to keep you more than anything. That was the beginning. We started building something new, slowly, carefully, respectfully. She had a loving family already. We weren't replacing them. We were adding to her world. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt whole. Then my parents found out, and everything exploded. They showed up at my apartment unannounced, furious. Threats, manipulation, guilt. If you don't end this, we'll tell Ryan everything. He already knows, I said. They tried to twist the story, paint me as unstable, reckless. But this time, I didn't fold. I told them to leave. They didn't stop. They called, messaged, tried to regain control any way they could. Finally, I blocked them. That's when they made their move. They invited us to dinner. I knew it was a trap. Ryan knew it too. But we went anyway. Because this time, we had the truth. We sat at that table, 4 plates, perfectly arranged. And right on cue, my father began. There's something you should know about Elena. He told Ryan everything, except the truth. That I was irresponsible, that I didn't know who the father was, that I gave my child away without a second thought. I stayed silent. Ryan didn't. He set his fork down and said, calm and steady, I already know, and you're wrong. The room shifted. I'm her father, he said. We have proof. He laid it all out, the timeline, the DNA results, the contact with Lily. My parents didn't expect that. They tried to pivot, to threaten, to regain control, but it didn't work. Because for the first time in my life, they didn't have the narrative. We left that night knowing one thing for certain. They weren't coming to the wedding, but Ryan had already planned something bigger. The rehearsal dinner, 40 people, friends, family, colleagues, witnesses. And Lily? She walked into that room holding her adoptive mother's hand. Small, confident, wearing a white dress with a purple sash. The entire room went silent. She walked straight up to me, smiled, and said, Hi, I'm Lily. Then she turned to the room and said, I'm their daughter. Everything my parents tried to bury was standing there in the light. Ryan explained the truth. Calm, clear, unshakable. Her adoptive parents stood beside us, supportive and steady. And when my mother tried to speak, tried to twist it again, the room didn't follow her. They saw her, clearly. For the first time, even people who had known her for years stepped back. She had no control left, no narrative, no audience. She left, and no one stopped her. The next day, I got married. Lily walked down the aisle before me, scattering petals. Ryan cried when he saw us. And when we said our vows, we didn't just promise each other. We promised her. We promised to choose truth, always. Life after that wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple, but it was real. Lily still lives with her parents. That's her home. But we're part of her life now. Dinner every week, weekends together. 4 parents, 1 child. More love than she was ever supposed to have. I sent my parents one final letter. Clear, final. They're not part of my life anymore. And for the first time, that doesn't feel like loss. It feels like freedom. Because some families are given to you, and some you have to fight to rebuild. And when you do, you never let anyone take them away again.